Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Many of our Detect and Detox kit users have high toxic chemical exposures due to packaged foods. And many of these users will also get their exposures from over-the-counter remedies used to take care of some of the physical side effects from these foods, such as antacids. And it's a common belief that heartburn or acid reflux is caused by a buildup of high stomach acid. But however, that's actually not always the case. This actually can caused by low stomach acid. This is why today we're really glad to be joined by Katie Morra, founder of Gut Honest Health. And Katie has a bachelor degree in psychology, a minor in biology, and a master degree in applied nutrition. She's also a functional medicine certified practitioner. So we're going to discuss symptoms of low stomach acid and some of the medications that can disrupt your stomach acid and how to increase stomach acid level naturally. So I saw... Hello, hi Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
No, this is such informative topic, and I think a lot of people are just like not aware.
It's also a very confusing topic, right?
Right, very, very confusing.
This is good. I'm glad we're jumping into it.
So tell us a little bit about your background and like how you become a certified functional medicine practitioner.
Sure. So I heard you list out my things. It's all over the place. So I started out actually in like psych and biology, and I thought I was going to go to school to become a psychologist, which I guess I half did. And then I decided to switch. I started shadowing some people, and I found the nutrition world, particularly the functional medicine people I was, following around, to be so interesting. And it was like really the first time I felt like something like sparked joy and lit up in me and career wise. So I kind of pivoted and I went back to school and got another bachelor's degree in nutrition and then did my master's in nutrition and in all the, dietetic stuff that is included in that. And the entire time I went to become a registered dietitian, I knew I was going to do functional medicine. There was never the traditional pathway for me. So I did it to kind of have the credentials behind my name. And then I went to the Institute for Functional Medicine sort of immediately once I was licensed, was probably the youngest person I feel like that was like ever there, and got certified. So I did the training alongside, the MDs, the physicians, and chose that route and finished years ago. And here I am, practicing and continuing my growth every day.
This is awesome. So like compared to like a normal dietitian and other regular like practitioners, so what is like a functional medicine practitioner?
Yeah, so I think functional medicine is also a little bit misunderstood unless you're in it. So functional medicine is really more so than a type of practice, in my opinion, is the way that you approach a patient or a case or a diagnosis. So it is really, right, we're as practitioners looking at what may be dysfunctioning in the entire body. So we view everything as more a systems approach versus siloed approaches. So we're trying to figure out what are all the systems that are going wrong and how can we make them function again. So it's really looking at a human as a whole, but it's very science-based, it's very German-based. So a lot of people I feel like mistaken as like this odd type of medicine. It's not a type, it's really just a way to approach medicine.
I love it. I love it. I love the holistic view. And I think so far, everyone we interviewed and pretty much everyone's on the same page because we face so many issues that traditional medicine just not able to explain. Or if you treat one side and the other problem arises even from the treatment. So we really need to look at human body in a holistic way.
Yeah. And our traditional world is great. We need it, right? It's really great at emergency care. It's really great for acute care. It's the chronic illness and the prevention with that we struggle. And that's where functional medicine really thrives, in my opinion.
Love it. So today we're talking about stomach acid, low and high stomach acid. So for those who might not aware, like what is the role of stomach acid?
Yeah. So generally speaking, most people are aware of it in terms of digestion. So it really helps alongside an enzyme called pepsin. It helps us digest our protein that we eat. But a lot of us don't realize the really important things to me about stomach acid outside of just digestion is it's like the conductor of all digestion. So without that, we lose the proper ability to digest downstream in the gut, which is talking digestive enzymes, bile, because it signals to those things to be secreted and work properly. It's also our first line of defense towards pathogens. So every day, right, people are like, oh my gosh, how do I get a parasite? Well, you're putting this stuff in your mouth all day long. Every day you're being exposed. But if we have the proper stomach acid level, it should be getting killed off in the stomach before it even makes it really into the intestinal tract to thrive, right? So killing things, producing things, or signaling and digesting are the big ones.
So many of us, like when we think about stomach acid, we think about like sour, like, acid reflux. So that is, but stomach acid is actually a really good thing because they do all these like important functions.
Yep. So this is where things get really kind of like run awry in the words and understanding of stomach acid. So it is just like anything, right? Everything in the body is balanced in proper levels. We don't have too much. We don't have too little. But stomach acid, for the most part, it should be contained, right? Like we have a valve that goes from the top of at the top of the stomach that connects to the esophagus. And then we have a valve that connects to the stomach and the small intestine. And they should open to allow proper things to go through and shut. It's when we have improper valve functioning that we get the acid reflux, we get the heartburn that we're going to talk about, because things are moving the wrong direction, right? But you need proper stomach acid. You need enough of it. It is so important to every single part of digestion in the human body, absorption of minerals, nutrients. So yeah, when you think of it, if you're thinking of it as like think of it more of a displacement of acid than acid reflux, if that kind of answered the question. But
right. So then we also know there's like a high versus low stomach acid. So what are their like difference besides the levels are higher versus lower?
So it's very confusing for a lot of people because for the most part, the symptoms actually mimic, right? People are like, oh, well, I have acid reflux. Well, acid reflux, right, like it just said, is acid moving the wrong direction, but low stomach acid can actually build like an intra-abdominal pressure that pushes it up the wrong way. So do you have too much? Do you have too little? Why is it going the wrong direction? So usually you'll think of with low, some of the differentiating factors you might have is like brittle hair and nails, right? Like peeling hair and nails is a big one because your nutrients and your protein aren't being absorbed properly. Or a lot of nutrient deficiencies like iron and B12 will be a side effect of having too low or inhibited acid production for a lot of people. Nausea with supplements and medications, like unless that's obviously a direct impact of the medication. When you take supplements, you're like, they do not sit right. A lot of times you have low acid production. So that's one that people don't get often. Or like multiple food sensitivities, that can be a big one. So if you're like struggling and nothing's fixing it, a lot of times you'll be suffering with a low stomach acid production. Not
so always. It's could be food sensitivity, could be the building up the pressure in the abdomen, and then also the medications or supplements.
All the above can kind of cause disturbances. Yeah.
And then people also heard these terms like, acid reflux, heartburn, and GERD. Are these means the same thing, or are there differences between these terms?
For general purposes of most people, they mean the same thing. Basically, acid reflux causes heartburn, right? The sensation, the motion of that. So think of heartburn more as like you're explaining the symptom. The acid reflux is causing that. GERD is usually more severe acid reflux or a longer term, chronic, more frequent, like multiple times a week. And it's going on for weeks. So that would be more, I'm struggling with GERD as a severity problem.
Right. You had a really interesting post talking about the proton pump inhibitors, which is such a common medication people take. So like, what are the PPIs and, how can they play a role in like a low stomach acid?
So the proton pump inhibitors, a lot of people know like omeprazole is a really big one, but you can, flip it around, Google your medication if you're taking it or been on it. The whole point of those is to stop or minimize stomach acid production, right? Because and they're appropriate in various certain situations, right? So if you have a hiatal hernia might be helpful. If you have an active ulcer, if you are being treated for H. pylori, there's a lot of different reasons that you may or may not be on one. People will be given them. The problem is this medication, right? Stopping acid, it's trying to intend to help let somebody not be being burned by their own acid to like worsen ulcers, right? So that they can heal. They're really supposed to only be used for a few weeks, like 2 to 6 weeks, depending, for most people, not everyone, but for most people, there is some long-term usage. But we find people all the time, right, that come to you and are like, I've been on it for 10 years or 5 years. And they're like, well, no one ever told me to stop. Or they when it stopped working, they upped my dosage. And like, that's just not obviously how I drive in my practice and how it should really be working for most people. So the PPI itself will actually lower stomach acid production. So you can imagine what 10 years of doing that will do to your parietal cells, which is what produce acid.
Which is really crazy because it's literally making an opposite impact that you wanted, and then the more you take it, that actually worsen your symptom rather than like curing it.
Yeah, so some people won't notice it helps at all, or maybe it like momentarily for a short term helps and then stops helping. There's other medications people use, but for the most part, like as we age, and I'm talking like 40 and up, which is young, right? So 40 and up, we start to decrease our stomach acid production naturally. So the interesting thing for me with PPIs, I think, is that the majority of individuals prescribed long-term use of PPIs are people above the age of 40. That doesn't make sense, right? It should be the tea poppers and the young guys are given it. So we have this whole slew of people in population of, 40 to 90-year-olds that are being on omeprazole forever, or PPIs forever, or long-term, and they actually very, very likely do not have high stomach acid, right?
This is like a really crazy,
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's like causing like opposite effect, and then also like a kind of like a diminishing their absorption of vitamins. Then it's almost like a double whammy.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really, it's a big problem. Because kind of like you're just saying, we're doing the opposite of what we need to do for a lot, not everyone, but for a lot of people, right? So if you don't have Barrett's esophagus, there's some reason that somebody's put you chronically on it. Why are we getting to the root cause as to why you need it in the first place, or why you have low stomach acid or dysbiosis in the first place?
So then other, like now we can talk about natural ways without medication. How can we, is there any food that can contribute to low stomach acid, or is there any food that we can eat to, prevent low stomach acid?
So I don't usually directly go always for food. I can happy to talk about things that contribute to the low acid.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, because it's like food. I mean, there are foods, but I don't want to demonize them because it's actually a lot of healthy foods that can control like fibers and stuff that can lower stomach acid. Or people use things like apple cider vinegar and stuff, but that's not always the best approach to just be taking that without like supervision, or the best approach for stomach acid, period. So big things that contribute to the feelings of acid reflux, usually it contributes to low, but we're still having it, is obviously we talked medications, right? A bacterial infection, which is common in like 60% of the population worldwide, is called Helicobacter pylori. And that actually is I'm like fascinated by H. pylori, but it will lower your stomach acid production, but it will actually it thins your mucosal lining in your stomach. So it makes you feel more sensitive to the acid you're producing, which is why we get ulcers, right? So you feel like you have like so much acid and it's out of control, but it's actually, you don't.
It's actually not.
Yeah, it's that one's a doozy. And then there's things like chronic stress contributes to low stomach acid. Aging contributes to low stomach acid. Poor diet, of course, is going to just contribute to everything. And poor stomach acid production. And then, I mean, we have other things you want to think about with stomach acid, like hiatal hernias are big. They're not going to lower your acid, but they're going to displace your acid for a lot of people, right? And then there's other bacterial infections, like SIBO is really common, if you've heard of that. Like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is going to cause, it's high up, it's like right on the other valve, potentially, of the stomach and small intestine. It will build that intra-abdominal pressure. And then food sensitivities you want to figure out, because food sensitivities is a huge, and I'm not talking like tomatoes, right, causing spiciness or all that. Spiciness can worsen it if you're in a flare, but having a reaction to dairy, right? If dairy constipates you and you're constipated all the time, you're going to be backed up and have this pressure of things going the wrong direction that can displace acid.
That makes a lot of sense. So then, like, what food can we eat to prevent it? Well, I guess this is more individualized.
It's definitely it's like definitely very individualized. Right. So that's like where you need balance of all things, because you want to have balance of fibers and fluids and electrolytes that help consistent bowel movements is big with acid reflux, like have a consistent peristalsis wave and pooping basically. But food sensitivities is really specific to the individual. There's obviously very common ones we hear about, like gluten, dairy, corn, soy. but it's very, very specific to, everyone always like, it's probably gluten, but like back in the day when I did my first elimination diet, it was definitely soy, you know what I mean? Like, or like GMO soy specifically. So everybody's different. I have a whole program where it's like, you can do it yourself and figure out your sensitivities through food if you want. But yeah, I would encourage you to work with a dietitian or nutritionist on your own with that.
That makes a lot of sense. We're talking about working with a dietitian. You offer nutrition counseling. So tell us about that. What's the session with you look like?
Yeah, so at my practice, God Honest Truth, right now we have 2 providers, myself and a functional nutritionist named Kira, who's great. And we do everything from testing, right? So we test things like Helicobacter pylori. We help you identify food sensitivities. We kind of do the whole gamut since she's been to IFM as well, and I'm fully trained outside of food and into the clinical world. So we will usually do an intake with you and figure out like, what do your past labs look like? What is going on? What are the symptoms, the main goals? And we'll possibly recommend tests if that's within something you're hoping to do. But a lot of times we're walking through, how can we start with your diet? And where are you ready to start with your diet, right? Like, are you someone who eats super clean and maybe that's not the case? Or are you eating like McDonald's every day and we need to start small? So it just really depends. We do everything very, very individualized in our practice, and we're all about educating our clients and patients. And we have packages, we have single-handed appointments. So it's kind of like what you need, we meet you there versus having to sign up for like a program.
I also feel like this is where your psychology background also comes into play, because like behavior change is so hard.
So hard. So hard. It's the hardest thing, right? It really is. It's like, even if you do all the tests and find something, if you're not ready to shift the behavior, it's going to be really hard for somebody to like magic wand remove it. So, sometimes it is as simple as we identify H. pylori and give you like a 2 to 4 week non-medicated, potentially protocol, and you're you eat really clean and you're better. And then we fix your stomach acid production with supplementation or apple cider vinegar, all of that stuff, good foods. Or it could be a lifestyle shift that's really hard to do for a lot of people.
Yeah. You also have ebooks. Tell us about that.
Yes. So my acid reflux ebook is by far the most popular one in my first baby. So that's always fun. But so we have 5 ebooks now that I've written. So they're basically like series, right? They're called How to Get Rid of Your Acid Reflux, How to Get Rid of Your SIBO. We have an IBS book, we have a thyroid book, and we actually have the acid reflux in Spanish as well. They're really great. So people always read them. They're short, easy reads. I basically condense like a ton of information and research into very like 30 to 60 page books. We link all the research. We do provide you with tips on nutrition. We do provide you with recommendations and things that work supplement wise, tests that you might want to consider. So people are always like, oh, and they're very inexpensive. So people always ask like, do you provide, I don't treat, but do you provide tips on how to like get through this? And that is the whole point of those books. If you're going to try to do it yourself, I want you to have the best information you can. And at minimum, it's going to teach you things that you are sifting through on the internet and confused about, that let you learn how to articulate and advocate for yourself when you do talk to your physicians or practitioners.
I love it. This is like the first step for people to get educated. And then if they have the ability, they can follow the protocol in the book. And then if they need more help, they can sign up for counseling with you or with our practitioner. Yeah.
A lot of people do that. It's like they read it because it also helps you see how I myself, and obviously who I teach as my providers at my clinic, how we think and how we operate and what we recommend, so you don't feel so blindsided going into action, and what to expect. It's like you kind of know, but now let's tailor it and monitor you so that everything's safe and good.
I love it. You also have a podcast. So what is the name? And then like what type of topic do you cover? Where can people find it?
Yeah. So my whole business started as just a podcast. So it's Gut Honest Truth. So play on words. Gut Honest Truth. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. If we ever record the live recording, we put it on our YouTube channel. So, and if you follow my Instagram, we're always sharing all of these updates and things. But Gut Honest Truth, Spotify, iTunes, we do everything. We have 2 main, for now, like categories of sessions that we are like podcast episodes that we do. One are interviews. So we have actually interviewed a lot of the really big names in the field, from like Dr. Carrie Jones to Dr. Christine Marin, the founder of Entreantiel. Like really great people to learn from. And so we interviewed them on specific topics like hormonal health, fertility, detox. But we also do what we call Spitfire rounds, which I love. And it's where we actually take questions from our followers, our patients, our listeners, and they're very anonymous. And then we answer them so that people can get help that they are looking for.
This is so cool. This is so cool. It looks like we have one question. Someone asked, can low stomach acid cause someone to feel nauseous?
It definitely can. I more so would be curious when you're nauseous. Is it with certain foods, right? Is it at an empty stomach? Is there no rhyme or reason? Because things like H. pylori are big with nausea, and oftentimes it will be away from food or upon waking up that people are nauseous. But that impairs your stomach acid, right? That's all about stomach acid in the end. So I would think about H. pylori, food sensitivities, and also make sure you're not taking a supplement or medication that is contributing. We always forget about looking into those and the side effects.
Thank you so much. This is like so informative.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining. Be sure to follow Katie at Got Honest Truth, and then we're gonna have all the information website in our LinkedIn bio promoting this Instagram live. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, awesome. Talk to you soon then.
Bye.
Bye.